Listen, I need to tell you something that's going to sound absolutely insane. You've been getting scammed for years, maybe decades. And the craziest part? You loved every second of it. You paid for it willingly. You probably even posted about it on Instagram. The company that's been running this con? Red Bull. And before you click away thinking, oh great, another conspiracy theory, no, stay with me. Because what Red Bull did is actually genius, like diabolically, brilliantly, changed the entire game of business genius. And I'm about to show you exactly how they pulled it off. Here's what blew my mind. In 2024, Red Bull made $11.7 billion. That's billion with a B. They sold 12.7 billion cans of their energy drink worldwide. But, and this is where it gets absolutely bonkers, Red Bull doesn't actually make Red Bull. I'm dead serious. They don't own a single factory, not one bottling plant, 0 production facilities. They outsource everything. So what the hell are they doing with $11.7 billion in revenue? Buckle up, because this rabbit hole goes deep, and by the end of this video, you're gonna look at every energy drink in your fridge completely differently. And hey, if you're even remotely interested in business, marketing strategy, or how to build a brand that prints money, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. I break down billion-dollar companies like this every week, and trust me, the stuff I've uncovered about other brands is even crazier. Okay, let's get into it. So it's 1982, Bangkok, Thailand. There's this Austrian dude named Dietrich Mateschitz, marketing exec, bit of a hustler, suffering from gnarly jet lag during a business trip. Someone hands him a local drink called Krating Dang. In English, that literally translates to Red Bull. He drinks it. Jet lag? Gone. Energy? Through the roof. Now, here's where most people would just say, huh, cool drink, and move on with their lives. But Mateschitz had a different thought. What if I take this to Europe and make an obscene amount of money? Problem. He pitches this idea to Western investors. They all say no. Their logic is actually pretty sound. Energy drinks don't exist in Europe. There's no market. This is stupid. But Mateschitz is thinking 5 steps ahead. He's like, you know what's better than entering a market? Creating the market. If I invent the category, I own the category. So he does something absolutely ballsy. He takes out his life savings, $500,000, and convinces the Thai manufacturer to match it. They split the company 50-50, and boom, Red Bull is born. But here's where the business model gets interesting. Mateschitz makes a decision that every business professor would call insane. He decides Red Bull will never own production, like as a company philosophy. Think about that. Coca-Cola owns factories in like 200 countries. Pepsi has massive bottling operations. These beverage giants spend billions on infrastructure. Red Bull said, nah, we're good. They outsource everything. Production, bottling, logistics, distribution infrastructure, all of it. They just slap their logo on cans that someone else fills up. Now you might be thinking, okay, but that means they're spending money on contractors, right? How is that better? Oh, my sweet summer child, let me break down the insane economics of this. It costs approximately 9 cents to produce 1 can of Red Bull. That's the liquid, the can, everything. But remember, Red Bull doesn't even pay that. They just pay a contractor. They sell cases to retailers like Walmart for about $44 to $48 per case. That's 24 cans. Quick math. That's about $1.87 per can wholesale. Walmart then sells each can to you for around $3.59 to $3.99, depending on where you live. So let's trace this beautiful scam. Cost to make, $0.09. Red Bull's wholesale price, $1.87. Your price, $3.59. Red Bull is making roughly 2,000% markup, and they don't even touch the product. But wait, if they're not spending money on factories and production, where's all that cash going? Marketing, all of it. Almost $2 billion per year on marketing. And this is where the con becomes an art form. See, most companies use marketing to sell their product. Red Bull uses their product to sell marketing. Stay with me here because this is mind-bending. In the late 80s and early 90s, Red Bull needed to justify charging $4 for sugar water with caffeine. So Mateschitz invented this concept of brand investment. Essentially, if you make the brand cool enough, the product almost doesn't matter. First move, college campuses. They hired popular students as brand managers. These kids would throw parties, hand out free Red Bull, and make it seem like the coolest thing on planet Earth. They weren't selling a drink. They were selling access to a lifestyle. Then they put giant Red Bull cans on VW Beetles and drove them everywhere. Beaches, gyms, office buildings, festivals, free samples, but make it an event. Nightclubs were next. Red Bull vodka became the drink. Not because it tasted amazing, but because asking for it by name made you seem like you were in the know. Bartenders loved it because they could charge $12 for like $2 worth of liquid. Everyone's making money off this con. But Mateschitz realized something profound. Traditional advertising dies the second you stop paying for it. A TV commercial? You run it. People forget it. Billboard? People stop noticing. But what if you owned the content? What if you created stuff so good that people wanted to watch it? Enter Red Bull Media House. In 2007, Red Bull starts a full-blown production company. They make documentaries, sponsor athletes, host events, and here's the kicker. They own all the footage, forever. Other companies pay $7 million for a 30-second Super Bowl ad. Red Bull spends $50 million to send a guy to the literal edge of space and owns that content forever. You remember Felix Baumgartner in 2012? Dude jumped from 128,000 feet, broke the sound barrier with his body, and it was all over the news for weeks. 8 million people watched it live. Some experts estimated the media value at $6 billion. Red Bull spent $50 million and got $6 billion worth of publicity. That's a 120x return on investment. And they can still use that footage today. It's still going viral on social media. That's an asset that appreciates over time. Tell me that's not genius. But it gets even crazier. Red Bull doesn't just sponsor sports teams like normal companies. No. They buy the teams. They own them. 2 Formula One racing teams, 5 football clubs across 4 continents, a hockey team, hundreds of individual athletes on payroll. And here's the strategic brilliance. Their football clubs aren't just random teams, they're a pipeline. A kid starts playing for Red Bull Brazil, shows talent, moves to Red Bull Salzburg in Austria, dominates there, gets transferred to RB Leipzig in Germany to play Champions League. End of career, retires at New York Red Bulls in MLS. Red Bull controls the entire career arc. Every transfer fee stays in the Red Bull ecosystem. They're basically playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. Oh, and remember when I said they bought the New York team for $25 million in 2006? By 2020, Forbes valued it at $290 million. That's a 10x return in 14 years. Not bad for a marketing expense. They're currently paying over 1 billion euros per year just in sponsorship fees to athletes and teams. That's not a typo. 1 billion. For context, that's more than the entire annual revenue of most Fortune 500 companies. Now here's where I'm going to be real with you, because we need to talk about the elephant in the room. After all of that, the F1 teams, the football clubs, the media house, the space jumps, the extreme sports empire, guess how much of Red Bull's revenue comes from actual sports business? 3%. That's it. 97% still comes from selling cans of energy drinks. All those sports teams, losing money. The media house, losing money. The events, losing money. Red Bull classifies all of it as ongoing brand investment. That's corporate speak for, we're not making money on this yet. But here's why they don't care. The energy drink business is so profitable that it subsidizes everything else. When you're making 2,000% markup on every can, you can afford to run decade-long experiments. And those experiments are building assets. The New York Red Bulls went from $25 million to $290 million in value. The media library grows more valuable every year. The athlete relationships create multi-generational brand loyalty. It's the ultimate long game. Okay, so why am I telling you all this? Why should you care that Red Bull is basically a marketing company disguised as a beverage company? Because what they figured out changes everything about how to build a brand in 2026. They proved that if your brand is valuable enough, the actual product becomes almost irrelevant. You're not selling liquid, you're selling identity. You're selling the feeling of being someone who does extraordinary things. When you hold a Red Bull can, the same logo is on a $15 million Formula One car. It's on a skateboard that just landed a trick you'll never do. It's on a wingsuit that jumped off a mountain. You're not buying an energy drink. You're buying proof that you're the kind of person who thinks big. That's not marketing, that's alchemy. And here's the thing that makes me laugh. Red Bull's growth is actually slowing. That 6.4% growth in 2024? That's the slowest since 2020. Competition is fierce. Monster, Rockstar, and hundreds of cheaper private labels are eating their lunch. But Red Bull doesn't care because they're not really competing on energy drinks anymore. They're competing on cultural relevance. on storytelling, on creating moments so iconic that people don't even realize they're watching a commercial. So here we are. You now know the truth. Every time you buy a $4 Red Bull, you're paying for 9 cents of liquid and can, $3.91 of brand, lifestyle, and cultural cachet. You're funding Formula One teams. You're paying for space jumps. You're subsidizing extreme sports athletes living their best lives. And you know what's wild? Even knowing all this, you're probably still going to buy it. Because that's the real genius of Red Bull. They convinced you that you're not buying a drink. You're buying a ticket to something bigger. You're joining a movement. You're supporting people who do impossible things. It's the greatest marketing scam in history, and we're all happily participating. Red Bull spent 40 years proving that people don't buy products. They buy stories. They buy identity. They buy the feeling they get when they're associated with something extraordinary. The can is just proof of purchase. So yeah, you've been getting scammed. But honestly, it's kind of beautiful. If this blew your mind even a little bit, do me a solid and subscribe. I analyze business models like this every single week. Companies that are playing 4D chess while everyone else is playing checkers. Next video, I'm breaking down how Netflix convinced an entire industry to destroy its own profit margins and somehow came out on top. It's even crazier than this. Also, drop a comment. What's another brand that's selling you a lifestyle instead of a product? I read every single one, and honestly, some of you have wild insights. And if you made it this far, you're my kind of person. Thanks for hanging out. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go buy a Red Bull, because apparently I haven't learned my lesson. See you in the next one.